Hello and welcome to the FDT-TV podcast. My name is Ian and by all means I am joined by a very special person, Mr. Michael Hawes, every week where we discuss everything to do with the Premier League and football in general, especially the World Cup, as that is coming up. And this week we have a round of things to do. The last round of Premier League predictions for the coveted trophy here. We have Ralph Heissenhuttel. He's been sacked. Liverpool, yes. Are they going to be sold and beating Chelsea's record because they've been valued at $5 billion US? And has David Moyes taken West Ham as far as they can go? All of that sort of thing to come. So make sure you're subscribed and you stay tuned for the whole of the podcast. But without further ado, Mike, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad at all. I've had a very busy week. Enjoyed the football, though, over the course of the weekend. Still top of the league. In a little bit of dreamland. People keep asking me my opinion. Do I think we're going to win the league? My answer is I'm not saying anything at the moment. But I will caveat that. Yes, it is possible for us to win the league. However, when you've got the likes of Manchester City with Erling Haaland scoring goals for fun, he only needs to play 5 minutes and he'll score a goal. I would love to be optimistic, but I think I'm going to be realistic for the moment. How's things with you? You all right?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good. Footballing work time, maybe not so much, but we'll wait and see. We'll get to that later in the podcast. But first of all, I think what we have to bring up, Mike, is something most important. That's Gareth Southgate's very long list. Some have referred it to as like Schindler's List. It's got a very long list of names. 55 players on this list, yes, allegedly that he'd submitted to the FA as players he could take to the World Cup. Now, we'll get onto it in a little bit, but players such as Joe Gomez, Danny Welbeck, Eze, who could actually represent Nigeria, Lewis Dunk and Ruben Loftus-Cheek make this list. I'm going to go with he hasn't got a clue at what he's doing. And if I was the FA, I would have sacked him there and then. But, I mean, should we get into some details before we discuss some of the possibilities as to the whats and whys of it?
Yes.
So he's got to get it down to a 26-man squad by the 14th of November.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to submit the squad to FIFA by the 10th, I believe. And yeah. So he... Sorry, I'm just my list is all jumbled up. So yeah, 26-man squad he's got to have. And he is allowed to make late replacements in the event of a serious injury at any time up to 24 hours before the first game. And that's not the first game of the World Cup. That's their first game as England versus Iran, which is the day after the first game. But yeah, the World Cup starts in 11 days. He still hasn't reduced it down to 26 men. Even if he'd taken a replacement, a backup player on this list for every position to account for injuries, that's only 37 players above like the whole 26-man squad. How has he come up with 55 men and not a single one of them is really been announced properly to the world? It's just been leaked that he's come up with this list. What's your opinion on it?
Maybe he's just had a look and seen what English players are playing in the Premier League at the moment, who's got a bit of form about them,
yep,
and possibly even some of these players who's not got a bit of form, because we always see the likes of Harry Maguire making the list somehow when he's not even been played for for his club, or very sparingly been played by his club, because as soon as he comes on, they end up hitting a bit of a shitstorm. So maybe it's just all of the England senior players that are available in the Premier League as it stands at the moment that he's put down on his list. And I don't know if there's kind of like a bit of a dartboard system. It could be, because some of those picks, I mean, I'm sure that's why I keep going on about Harry Maguire, but I'm sure that's the only reason he gets picked. I know Gareth Southgate's come out previously and called for fans to get behind his selection and and all this sort of stuff. And he doesn't do too bad when it comes to England. But when you look at the form he's had for his club, this is a guy that's lacking confidence. And do you really want a guy lacking confidence playing for the national team, centre stage in the middle of a World Cup? I certainly don't.
You're right. I mean, he's not even getting in front of Lindelof now. Bear in mind, he's Manchester United's captain. Lindelof, who they actively were trying to sell a couple of years ago, gets in a team before him when Varane's injured. Mm-hmm. That says something. But I mean, Danny Welbeck. He's got a number of England caps. You'd class him as a senior player now. He's got some experience. He's played at Manchester United. He's played at Arsenal. He's been there and done that. He's won trophies. He's not played for England since, I think, 2019? And
2018.
2018. And you'd say for him, he's having a reasonably good season with Brighton. Having that, he scored I think, 3 goals and he's got 3 assists. But the fact that Ivan Toney couldn't get a game, Callum Wilson couldn't get a game, how's he even in the squad?
I've no idea.
I just
literally have no idea. It's. Do you know what? I don't know. I don't even know where to start with this one. Really, really don't know where to start with this one. Again, I go back to the whole dartboard system, because that's the kind of impression that you get with some of the players that have been called up onto the list. When you look at the likes of Danny Welbeck, I know he's scored a few goals for his club already this season. Brighton probably doing the best that they've done in a while. But when you look at some of the goals, or certainly some of the recent goals that I've seen, they've all come from Pascal Gross, Trossard.
Yep.
It's not coming from Danny Welbeck. I don't know, unless it's thinking more, I suppose, kind of outside the box. Could he do a thing? But I think there's players certainly more deserving of a place within the England squad that are in far better form, scoring goals.
Yep.
That would sit behind Harry Kane, as obviously he's going to get picked. He's the England captain, not short of a few goals. World Cup Golden Boot winner, I think, or Euro Golden Boot winner. So he's obviously going to get picked unless he picks up a significant injury. Yeah, I don't know.
So I mean, I can understand it in a sense of he's planning and he's trying to bring out as many players as he can into his schematic of, well, if there's this is what I want, but then if there's these injuries, then we have to look further afield. I get that, but that should have been done months ago, not last week that was submitted. I mean, we have got some major injuries at the minute from what you'd say is a normal England squad, because Reece James is out, potentially to come back from what you said earlier. Could be back in time, potentially. Do you take the risk? Ben Chilwell's out. Who else is confirmed as out? Calvin Phillips has been in the England squad. He's been out injured for a while now. So that there are more and more players becoming injured. And I think some of that is the condensed calendar before the World Cup is causing these injuries. Others, I think, is people are so concerned about getting injured that they don't go play at full tilt, at which point they do get clattered into because they're only playing at half speed. But let's speak about the one position which I think is going to be the most controversial. Goalkeeper.
Yep.
So this year we have a number of goalkeepers which are decent. Some are in form, some are not. So usually we see Jordan Pickford line up for England as number one, no matter what. He's had a couple of good games this season. He's had a couple of bad games. But that said, there are a few options which I think potentially should go ahead of him. Number one is the man who's in between the sticks for the club sitting first in the Premier League, Mr. Aaron Ramsdale. How can you deny the guy who's sitting in goal for the best team at the moment in the Premier League, not being starting as number one. That's a hard argument to make. The other one, who I think potentially would be understudy to Ramsdale just because he's not as fluent with playing out with his feet, Nick Pope. He's conceded the least goals in the Premier League this season. So it's one of those brilliant shot stopper, not as fluid playing with his feet, and you'd like to think as England, for the most part, we would have control of the ball, and that's something we'd like to look at. But Dean Henderson is playing for. He's usually the third keeper, but he's playing for Nottingham Forest this year, having a bit of a torrid time. Not necessarily his fault. But who do you put between the sticks for the first game against Iran?
I think you just said it really well. Obviously, I will be biased because he is he's my team's goalkeeper. I think he's been absolutely brilliant since he signed for us. There was a lot of people who were criticising the signing. Obviously, he'd had a few issues with a couple of teams that he was playing with being relegated. Again, just to kind of reiterate the point you were saying about Dean Henderson, I don't necessarily think they were his fault, but I'd say he was a massive transformation for us last year. Didn't really put a foot wrong. There were a couple of goals I think were little bit sloppy and could have done better. However, on the most part, I think he's a leader at the back that we've been missing for quite a long time. He's a brilliant shot stopper, as you said. There's been a couple of times that he's absolutely saved us points within the season. So I don't understand how you can look past him. But for me, he would be my number one choice. The only thing I think that does let him down is the fact that he has only had three England caps going into the tournament, whereas Jordan Pickford has had quite a substantial number more and has had tournament experience.
Yep.
So that would be the only thing I could think as to why Pickford would get the shout before him. But I personally would go for Aaron Ramsdale in goal.
Fair enough. I think we both agree there then. And I've got a starting lineup for what I would put in against Iran, and it's a 4-3-3 essentially with a deep line playmaker, two sort of centre midfielders, two wingers, and a striker. But at right back, Reece James would have been number one for me. Mm-hmm. He would have been number one. He's out injured currently, but as you said, you come in with some information that you see earlier that he could be out for only a couple of weeks, meaning that he could potentially still make the squad. I don't know if I'd take the risk on him at this point, but for me, Kieran Trippier has got to be in there over Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think defensively he is better. His ability on a dead ball situation is good, and he can cross just as well as Trent. Again, an aged player who has the experience of going to these tournaments, and has played in different leagues for different teams, and has been there, done that. Really, he's not won a lot, but he's got the experience of it, and especially being as Kyle Walker is out as well, he's got a start for me. But what do you make of it?
I completely agree. It was a tough one between him and there's another name I'd like to throw in the mix as well, and it's a guy that's been playing right back for us this year, Ben White. I think has been absolutely fantastic. Likes to overload the attacking play, so will overlap with Bukayo Saka. Does defend, has been absolutely solid for us. But to be honest, I think with all three of those, you could look at pros and cons as to why they would be in the position that we're in.
Yep.
Obviously, you've mentioned Kieran Trippier. I do agree. I think Newcastle, as you mentioned, have got the best defence in the league at the moment. And there's a reason for that. Obviously, their defence is quite solid. So for me, and quite a few people actually have questioned Trent Alexander-Arnold's attitude just recently. Yes, he's going forward, and I think we actually spoke about this a couple of weeks ago about potentially moving him up into the midfield.
Yep.
Or out on the wings, because obviously he has got a cross on him. His free kick ability is exceptional, but I think certainly for the first couple of games, excuse me, we need to be on it defensively, because we know what England are like, especially when it comes to important games, is that we can have a tendency to let the occasion get to us,
Yep.
and we end up ballsing it up. So for me, I would say, with his experience, with not only in the Premier League, in other leagues as you mentioned, also his tournament experience, I think Kieran Trippier is definitely the one to go with.
Yep. And as a back two pairing, I'm torn. One of the players you mentioned there is one of the ones I'm torn between. So Ben White is in there, but I've got him or Tomori. Both good players. Tomori's having a good season, or playing for Milan. But it is one of those things. I think it just depends on who gels quickest with the partner I've put him with, which is John Stones. Plays for Manchester City, has been playing fairly regularly and doing quite well. And he, as an elder statesman now of the England squad, I think is a much better choice than Harry Maguire. And if I'm honest, Harry Maguire doesn't even make my squad, let alone the first team. But what do you think about centre-back pairings?
So for me, I have gone for Harry Maguire and John Stones. I do agree with you. John Stones is a brilliant shout, and I as much as I don't think he should go based on his current form, I think regardless, he's obviously Gareth Southgate is definitely a fan of him. Keeps calling him up, so I can see him being taken and in that centre back position. And obviously you mentioned Tomori there, but I do think John Stones, Harry Maguire.
Fair enough.
Obviously, depending on how England's set up.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not
obviously
so negative.
Doing your formation.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not 3 at the back. Or 5 at the back. But I mean, with that being said, if it come down to the final game of the season, right? Hypothetical here. Final game of the season, and you had Harry Maguire and Ben White to partner John Stone, or say the final game of the season came down to the final. England are there. Would you rather have the reliance of Ben White or Harry Maguire at the back? If it was Arsenal or if it was England, it's the ability to do it. Who are you going to put your trust in this season?
100% Ben White. Definitely not
Slabhead.
Harry Maguire.
Not
I mean,
Slabhead.
it's very difficult, isn't it? Because I mean, we don't know how he's going to perform. Obviously, we can only go on his performances in the last 2-3 years.
Yep.
Obviously, he was brilliant in the Euros.
He was.
Had a shit season after that. It's kind of continued into this season, and I don't think he's going to be good enough. So,
so here's the thing.
If I had to pick,
you'd go with Ben White, would you? Here's the thing with
based on current form.
Here's the thing with Harry Maguire. He since the Euros, he I think he felt untouchable. He had that incident in, what was it, Marbella or wherever like that. Our Manchester United captain, I'll bribe the police, da. And since then, I think his opinion, he made himself look like a bit of a dick. And for that, you're going to get a bit of stick for that. You're going to get a bit of stick as Manchester United captain when they're failing anyway. The fact that you've made yourself look like a bit of a dick, you're going to get even more stick. And the fact that you're really out of form and you're playing like a Sunday League footballer, you're going to get even more stick. So he has got a lot of stick, but he hasn't helped himself in any way. I can't see that he's done anything to try and change sort of the general public opinion of him over that time. So the fact that he's being left out is a good thing, I think, for him mentally. But in some senses, I feel like he's sort of brought it on himself.
Yeah, don't forget that incident as well. I can't remember who we were playing against, where he scored the header and he's up cupping his ear to the fans and stuff. And for someone whose relationship is already under scrutiny, don't give them ammunition to come at you more, because as soon as you make one mistake after that, say you're up for a corner or whatever, and you're two yards from the goal, and you end up spooning it over the crossbar. People are going to hound you for it. So don't give them the ammunition. I think that's one of the things. Obviously, that was around about the same time as the the holiday incident anyway, so he didn't really do him, or didn't cover himself in glory. But
No.
yeah, just get your head down. But obviously, as we've said, certainly over the last 3-4 weeks, winning breeds confidence. When he's in the team, they're not winning. When they are winning, he's not in the team. I know that's kind of exactly what I've just said, but do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
There was a couple of weeks ago, I think he got brought on in a Europa League match, and they ended up conceding some goals or something. So yeah, he needs to stay as far away from the England setup as possible, in my personal opinion.
And left back, which I think is our weakest position. Obviously, Ben Chilwell's confirmed as out. I would like to see Cresswell in the squad because, again, crossing, dead ball situation, brilliant for us. But it's got to be Luke Shaw, surely.
Yes.
So that's where. And in the defensive midfield, I think, again, one we'll probably agree on, it'll be very quick, Declan Rice.
Yes.
Now, moving forward in those two central midfield positions, I've gone a little bit sideways. I think Jude Bellingham may be in there with a shout. But I've gone for Phil Foden and I've gone for James Maddison. A player who has had, 15 goal involvement, or maybe more, 16 goal involvements in the last 15 games for Leicester, considering they've been horrendous. He's getting assists. He's in form. He's confident. We spoke about it last week that he's one of those players that he'll have a good run of games and then he'll get injured. He's in that good run of games, so why not utilise it while it's there? But who do you have in that midfield?
So I had
sorry,
Jude Bellingham, as you mentioned.
I sort of enforced this formation on you. You haven't got a choice. That's what we're playing. Adapt.
No, it's fine. So yeah, I've gone for Jude Bellingham, and I would like to see James Maddison or James Ward-Prowse is another one with his dead ball situations and stuff. I think I've had the hardest time with this position.
We've got an abundance of quality at the minute, haven't we?
Yes, yeah. So it's really difficult to figure out who I'm going to put there. Jude Bellingham, from what I've seen of him, has been absolutely fantastic when he's played for England. But we've also got the likes of Jordan Henderson, obviously Liverpool captain. You've also got Mason Mount for Chelsea. I really don't know where to go with this one. Yeah, really don't know.
So that one I think is Gareth Southgate's trickiest thing. The fact that Ruben Loftus-Cheek is in that list as well is ridiculous because he doesn't stand up to half of them players. On the right wing, Bukayo Saka. We have got some good players who can play out there. Bowen for one. Grealish could play there. You could put Foden there. You could put Mount there. But for me, Saka's he's one of the first names on the team sheet at the minute.
Yeah, he had a brilliant Euros. Obviously, a fantastic season last season for us. Brilliant start to the season already. Hasn't really contributed in terms of scoring goals as much as he did last season, but has definitely been instrumental with being where we are. Such a talent for his age. Obviously, there was a lot of negativity, I think, after the Euros missing a penalty. But I think he showed a maturity for his age. He didn't let that impact him even immediately after. And possibly that was one of the reasons why he did so well last season, because he had a point to prove. But it's good to see that he's continued that vein of form from last season into this season. Unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable. So for me, he would definitely be out on the right wing as he does for Arsenal.
Yeah, and I think he's grown a lot as a player and shown how resilient he is just as a young person in general. Now, the left wing position is a bit tricky for me. Originally, I thought Sterling, and then I thought, no, not Sterling. Could it be Grealish? Because he's quite good, but he's not been. He's been playing like Miguel Almiron, hasn't he, from a couple of seasons ago? You could have. As I said, Sterling, said Rashford. You could put Foden out there again. You could put Mount. But in the end, I thought, do you know what? Rashford has been in reasonable form. His post-match interview against West Ham was quite revealing, I think, where he said, last couple of years I've not been in it mentally, but I've got over that. I've sorted that, and now I feel like I'm back at my best. And he looks sharp for me, and he's been playing in that position for Manchester United, and he's been doing well at it. And he's contributed with goals and assists, and just that general build-up play, and the fact that he's again another one who's got some speed about him. For me, I think he starts against Iran. But what do you think?
I agree, and it's good with Marcus Rashford, because obviously we can put him in as a centre forward as well. I know that's not really his kind of preferred position, and has struggled there a few times that I've seen him playing the centre forward. For me, it was between him and Raheem Sterling.
Yep.
Obviously, as you mentioned, you've got Jack Grealish there as well. But when you look at Raheem Sterling's performances for Chelsea this season, he's not hit the heights that he hit at Manchester City. So for someone that's in form, we obviously want to make an impression and start off the campaign with a win.
Yep.
I do agree that Marcus Rashford is a great shout for that position over Raheem Sterling. See, for me, it's a tough call. Again, because they've proven it at international level that Raheem Sterling is brilliant, scores goals, causes defenders an absolute nuisance. Mm-hmm. But going on form, I would say Rashford.
Yeah, and I think going forward for us is somewhere where, you had that golden generation, didn't you, of Lampard, Gerrard, Beckham. Do you know what I mean? And you knew what was coming. At the minute, I think we've got so many good players in wide positions, in midfield positions, and up front. You could put any combination of them in there, and it would give you a totally different team. But up front has to be the dirty bastard himself, Harry Kane. Now, I tried every which way to statistically say he shouldn't be there, but your striker has got to be a guy who is finding the back of the net. And out of all of our options, although he's not the most mobile, as you said, he's won the Golden Boot in the Premier League and international tournaments, and he's a top goal scorer for England in the Premier League at the minute. It's hard to make a case to not put him in. That said, Ivan Toney, Callum Wilson, and potentially even Calvert-Lewin, although his injury record is really bad at the minute, especially the first two, Toney and Wilson, will be chomping at his heels to get that position off of him.
100%.
And I think if you put either of those two up front, even as a rotation, you're still going to be dangerous. And I think, although I've said we're going to get knocked out at the group stage, which I still think we will, Gareth Southgate's long list has motivated my confidence for that happening, that he hasn't got a clue. That doesn't take away from the fact that the players might save his skin. But who have you got up top? Because he's already the captain of England, I can't add any more to what you've just said. Harry Kane is, unless he picks up an injury, will always be the number one, unless they stick him on corners and plays like an absolute knob. Or if you think about it, was it in the Euros? It took him like three or four games for him to score, and I think the first one was a penalty. Well, when he won the Golden Boot, all of his goals were from penalties.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a nonsense, but again, he finds ways of scoring, whether that be diving in the penalty box, going up to the referee, getting in the referee's ear roll. But for me, I don't want to sound like this is just a bitter Arsenal fan disgusted with the fact that it's a Tottenham player. It's not, because I want my country to do well. But for anyone that's watched this podcast knows that when it comes to the Nations League or friendly international breaks, we hate them because they're a dead rubber match. It doesn't mean anything. The Nations League is just a way of glorifying an international friendly. Do you know what I mean? With a Daffy Duck Cup right at the end of it. But when it comes to the international stage, the Euros, the World Cup, we can sit and bitch and moan about team selection. We can sit and say it's going to be crap, but we'll get sucked into it. We always do. we've been going for over 3 years now, and not once have we not got sucked into it.
Yep.
I think the last time it definitely helped because obviously we got quite far into the competition. But when you look at the World Cup 2 years or 3 years before that, because of COVID or whatever, it was another tournament that we were absolutely suckered into because of how well we do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, Harry Kane has to start, but I would be very quick to start changing him up if there are no contributions, either goals or assists.
Yep.
Hold up play. If he's having a dog shit tournament, get him out.
Get him out. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about it the other day, especially when Diego Costa got his first red card in the Premier League in 96 appearances or whatever. I think he would have got a lot more had VAR been about the first time round. If Harry Kane wasn't English, he would have the same reputation as Diego Costa for being a horrible, violent, nasty bugger to play against. But because he's Harry Kane and he's England's captain, he's the golden boy. He can't do any wrong. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so let us know who you think's going to start in goal in the comment section below over on the YouTube channel, because we're interested to know, and I think that's the most contentious position that there's going to be. But I think it's time to move on to Ralph Hasenhuttel.
Yes.
He has been sacked by Southampton after another defeat. Now, Southampton are one of those teams that will get beat 9-0 and then win 5-0 the next week under Heissenhuttel. He has had a bit of a changed squad. He's had players being sold and he's had to bring through youth, and he's buying in young players. He's brought in a couple of good Man City young players, but it's just not quite worked out for him. Southampton are not happy with where they are at the minute, and they've decided it's time for a change in direction. Now, I don't think he was doing a particularly bad job. Would I be confident he would keep them up this season? I think he would have done, because of the lack of quality in that squad, or in the squads around them, I should say. But with there being a elongated break because of the World Cup, this is a time, if you're going to change a manager, to do it, because it gives that manager time to work with the players who are not at the World Cup and get almost another pre-season in the bag before you kick off again. But do you agree with Southampton's assessment of getting rid of him is the best option at this point?
Again, it's another one of these strange decisions, I suppose, when you've got one game left to go before, or one Premier League game left to go before the World Cup. Yep. Now, I appreciate what you've just said, and I suppose it does make sense in the fact that you could get someone in, but you're not going to be able to assess the squad properly if you've got a lot of players out going to the World Cup. It's always sad when you see a manager kind of like lose the dressing room. It was actually interesting because I was listening to TalkSport, and they had Charlie Austin on there talking about his time under Heissenhuttel when he was playing at Southampton.
Yeah,
and he said something along the lines of, when the team lost it, he kind of threw the team under the bus. When they won, he would stay out applauding the fans and stuff, kind of giving it the big I am, as if to say, yeah, that's all me. I've done that.
Yeah.
Now, it's sad from a perspective that you've gone through highs and lows with this particular manager, and you seem to be backing him. Granted, I know this is a results-driven business, but I don't understand what's changed now compared to at an earlier point when you could have got rid of him earlier.
Yes.
But I think when there's obviously something that's gone on in the background. He's taken them as far as he can go, and they've wanted to get rid of him. I mean, just looking at their current stats, they've got 3 wins, 3 draws, and 8 losses this season, currently sitting in 18th.
Yep.
It doesn't make for good reading, but a string of results. Everton's a perfect example of that. Leicester, sorry. Leicester's a perfect example of that. You start stringing a few results together, and you can get yourself higher up the table.
Yep.
So it's a strange decision just before a World Cup, but I understand the logic behind it. Just kind of reiterating what you were just saying about you get like another mini pre-season.
Yeah, it says to me that they've already got someone lined up for that job, because if they get rid of him now with it's the FA Cup, isn't it? Or is it the Carabao Cup?
League Cup.
League Cup, yeah. So the Carabao Cup this week or tomorrow, and one more Premier League game. If you haven't got someone already lined up for the job that you know you want in and that you've had talks with, then it seems a little bit farcical to be trying to get someone in place in time for coming back at Christmas.
Well, they have actually got, or there's strong rumours. So it's
Nathan Jones.
Yeah, from Luton Town.
Yeah.
Is a name that's been kind of bandied around. Obviously, he's in charge of the game tonight and speaking to the Southampton board tomorrow. But obviously, we don't know. His interview may suck. But for me, in terms of his progression with Luton, because I understand from a guy at work who's in Luton, he's was at Luton, left to go to Stoke, got relegated with Stoke, ended up coming back to Luton Town, and is building some momentum with Luton Town in the Championship at the moment.
Yeah.
But why would you then throw that away to go to a team? The only thing I can think as to why it would go would be a financial situation.
Yes.
Because you would then potentially go in, can't do anything for the time being, or for the games that you've got left remaining, end up getting relegated, and you're then again that manager that gets teams relegated.
Yeah,
I personally think with the good thing he's got going on at Luton Town, to stay in at Luton for the rest of the season and get a caretaker manager in at Southampton, and then talk to him at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that the more zeros get added onto the end of your contract, the quicker your head turns. It's a difficult one, but so we'll wait and see. And talking of managers, David Moyes, he has lost the fans again in majority. Some saying Moyes out, he's rubbish, he's shit. That's clearly not the case. He's saved us from relegation twice. But I think the question bodes with bringing in players that he's brought in, or the club has brought in Paqueta, in Scamacca, in Benrahma. They don't suit the style of play David Moyes likes, which is that counter-attacking football, playing without the ball, very negative. They are players who do well in possession-based formations and systems. Now the question is, has David Moyes taken West Ham as far as they can go, and is it time for a change, especially being as there are a number of managers who are out of a job at the moment? My opinion, if we lose tomorrow, which I'll be really disappointed on because I'm going and it's my birthday, and he loses at the weekend, he's gone. He's been given the dreaded vote of confidence from the board, which we all know. If you lose your next couple of games, you're gone after that.
Yep. I
think we've got enough about us to win against Blackburn. But playing Brighton, who are a bogey team, we're not even playing Brighton. We're playing Leicester, who are in form. I think he's gone. But it's a hard one. I like David Moyes, but he's not getting the best out of players. Scamacca looked quality when we signed him. When we broke for the whatever it is, the friendlies for Italy, he looked really good. Benrahma has played really well, yet he gets substituted whether he's scoring or not. He looks like he's lost the dressing room, and that is then a dangerous game to play. I think, if I'm totally honest, it's time to say thank you very much. But we need to move on. We're 2 points above Southampton. Let's put it that way. And I would say Southampton, when you look at the two squads side by side, the immediate quality isn't necessarily with Southampton. But when you look at the age of the squad, we've got a very old squad. They've got a very young squad. So moving forward, as we'll get older and worse, theirs will get a little bit older and better. and I think it will very quickly change. But what do you make of the situation from the outside at West Ham?
It's a little bit of a strange one, because obviously the last 2 seasons have been absolutely phenomenal for West Ham. Obviously making it into the Europa League, going to the semis. I want to say the semis.
It was semi-final.
It was absolutely amazing to watch, and I've got to say it was kind of not so much a guilty pleasure, but it was just a pleasure watching, seeing how well West Ham were doing. Looking from my side of things, obviously I've not had a great couple of seasons in terms of Arsenal, but it was nice to see some positivity coming from somewhere, and it was great when you were winning, because you were happy coming onto the podcast. I'm not necessarily saying that times are down and you're a miserable bastard now. It's far from it. But
what's changed?
It's a shame, because I think you guys do have the quality to be better than you are, and I think you always run the risk with foreign players coming into the team, because there's an adjustment period to not only to the new league, but also for new training styles, new management styles, and all that sort of stuff. So you kind of have to allow them time to bed in. Now, again, I appreciate it's a results-driven business. It's going to be hard if you start losing, you start falling down those league positions, and you can't seem to turn it around. Then you're screwed, or you're potentially screwed.
Yeah.
So maybe a new change is required, but it is a shame, because I like to see West Ham doing well. Obviously, there's a few people in my family are West Ham supporters, and I suppose a second team-ish for me, if you like. But yeah, I wonder if he's taken them as far as you can go. Obviously, with the Europa League.
Yeah.
Should he have retired then and given it to someone else? Who knows?
Do you know what? I think our results this season and last season in the Europa League and Europa Conference League, respectively, have papered over the cracks. I think if we'd got knocked out of the Europa League early, he would have got sacked last season, because the end of last season our results were awful. You think we were fighting for fourth. By the end of it, we ended up 7th or 8th. We just couldn't get a result. We couldn't score a goal. And this season, when you look at the players we've signed, I think we've spent the third most amount of money this summer. We can't get a goal. It's not like we've brought in second string players. We've brought in quality players. He just doesn't want to play to a way that they can play, and they've been known for playing. If the only scout wasn't his son, maybe we would have figured that out. Or is his son gone, actually, this geezer's quality, let's get him in because he'll improve the quality of our squad, which I think is the case. And he's gone, he's got to play my system. It's not a player that can play that system. It's not a player that's used to playing that system. And they get frustrated. I don't want to be the lone man up top and get 4 touches a match. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that Mikel Antonio has just started diving in every game is winding me up. But that being said, there is calls for Scott Parker to come in. Now, he was a fantastic player for us, and he did win PFA Player of the Year, even though we got relegated, which is something no one has ever done before. But I think it's a regressive step in terms of management. I don't think he would be the man to drive us forward. I think he would only take us backwards. He's not got the experience in him to be able to be better than David Moyes is. That's my honest opinion on that fact.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And I think there's a level of immaturity about him. And I know that sounds really, but when you look at the jobs he's done, certainly recently, chopping and changing, I know obviously he was sacked and whatnot, but when you look at the most recent one, I suppose kind of throwing the chairman or the upper echelons of your football club under the bus. Yeah. Granted, you do need that level of support, and if you're not getting it, I get it can be frustrating. But
Gary O'Neill is doing wonders with that same squad, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it's
exactly. So I agree. Potentially a step back. it doesn't always work out for legends returning back to the club in a management capacity. Yeah, I agree. Wouldn't be the correct appointment.
So, with that being said, there is one thing I want, or two more things I want to bring up before we get on to predictions quickly. So we'll move along at a fair pace now. Manchester United and Barcelona are in a Europa League playoff game. What's that about? That was maybe more than 5 years ago. When I was growing up, that was a Champions League final. It's now a playoff game to get into the second string competition of European football. What is going on with the world?
Do you know what? I didn't even realise the format had changed. I knew there was a reason why they wanted us to finish top, and obviously I think they've increased the number of teams that are allowed to play in it or something. But yeah, it's a very, very strange one. It's a massive fall from grace for both clubs. But I don't like the fact that you've now got a knockout stage before the knockout stage.
You won't like it in a couple of years when it changes completely.
I think because doesn't the loser of those fixtures go into the Conference League?
No, I think they're just out.
Oh, okay.
I think is my understanding.
It was very confusing trying to watch the draw, trying to keep up with everything that was going on. But yeah, I dislike that. I think you have the first and second teams going into the pots. What was wrong with that? First and second going into the pots. It was a good system. Why is there now got to be a prelim?
Not next year.
Knockout game.
Yeah, not next year, but the year after it goes to a league system, which is even more confusing. But actually, I think is a better way of doing it. But we'll get to that in the future. I think, as and when it comes in. But there are reports that the Fenway Group are going to sell Liverpool. Now we've said, is this the end for Klopp? Potentially, especially been as if there's new owners coming in, the form they're in, I think they'll sell. But is this them trying to distance themselves from Asthmagate?
Quite possibly. There's your conspiracy theory coming out again. In fact, I don't even think it's a conspiracy theory now because I've seen multiple people reporting on exactly the same thing.
Does Darwin Núñez look like he's got asthma?
No.
Because he has, according to his Liverpool medical. He's never had it before in his life.
Well, these things can come on.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got the fastest ever speed ever in the Premier League.
Maybe it's the air in Liverpool. Are we considering that? Have we been up there?
I did feel a bit dodgy after coming back, but I think that was just the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a strange one. And crazy amounts of money. Obviously, that was going to be one of my questions to you. Like, realistically, knowing what Chelsea went for, what do you think Liverpool could fetch? Given that I suppose they are a bigger global brand. I don't know if they are. That's the thing. When they bought it for 300 million, and that was what, 10 years ago. So it's going to have 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, ago, it's going to have appreciated. They've won the Champions League since. They've won the Premier League since. So their marketability has gone up. I don't think they're worth more than what Chelsea would be worth. However, that said, Chelsea was sold under sell it or lose it circumstance. So it was sold under for $1 billion, which is the biggest sale ever for a sports franchise. I think Liverpool would go for more than that because they have got the reach for it. But the figures being bound around at $5 billion, I can't see it happening. Not in the current economic climate.
No.
I really can't see it. The world economy is in the toilet. So unless Elon Musk goes, do you know what? Twitter have banned me. Liverpool have banned me. I'm going to buy Liverpool as well. Do you know what I mean? I can't see it happening. It would have to be under some consortium. And I think, if I'm totally honest, do you know who I think may try and buy it? The people who own Newcastle. They're one of the only groups who could afford it. And could they shift from Newcastle to Liverpool? Interesting food for thought, that. But yeah, that's the sort of level of wealth we're looking at.
Could you not own two sports teams then, or is it one or the other?
You can own multiple teams, not in the same league, I think is the rules. When you look at the portfolio of the guy who owns Manchester City, they own 21 clubs now, something like that, but they all play in different countries and different leagues. So,
right, okay. Well, I suppose there'll be a kind of conflict of interest if they're in the same league and stuff. Yeah, no.
So that's where that comes in. But yeah, so interesting food for thought. Will it be sold? Possibly. Will it be sold for that much? Not at the moment, I don't think. I think it may be one of those that they sell off parts of it and still have a hand in what's going on. But we have some predictions to make. Yes. So I think, first of all, we should have a slight drum roll. With the fact that I've got a drum roll programmed into my thing I haven't used is ridiculous, but I don't know what button it is. Let's press this one. No, it's not that one.
Definitely not that one.
Yeah, definitely not that one. So with that being said, what were the predictions for last week's round of fixtures, Mike?
Okay, so we had Chelsea versus Arsenal and West Ham versus Crystal Palace. Chelsea were absolutely abysmal. We were better. Still lacked, I think, in the final third. Should have been more, but we ended up coming away 1-0 winners. You had 3-2 to Chelsea, and I was, I think, being overcautious, had us down for a 2-2 draw. So it's 0 points for either of us.
Good.
On that particular fixture. West Ham versus Crystal Palace. West Ham were 1-0 up and then decided to fall off a cliff. You had 2-1 to Crystal Palace and I had a 1-1 draw, and the score was 2-1 to Crystal Palace. Therefore, you get 3 points. I get a big fat 0. So for the week, you had 3 points. I had 0. So the scores as now follows is, Ian, you are currently on 24 points. I am on 26.
Ooh,
so the gap is closed. It's two points now, which I'm not happy about, if I'm going to be completely honest. But considering I had a bit of a 4-point gap, 5-point gap, going into this week's, but still we've got another set of fixtures to come up. The last lot before the World Cup commences. Ian, you're at home to Leicester, and we are away at. So do you want to go through your predictions for this?
Yep. So depending on what happens against Blackburn, because I think we'll play a heavily rotated squad, the atmosphere inside the London Stadium will start to turn. We've seen it before. We will see it again. I promise you that. I think this is David Moyes' last game in charge. I think we're going into the World Cup break in the bottom three. And I think I said at the beginning of the season, if that was the case, he'd have to be gone. But I think Leicester have hit a bit of form and now are growing in confidence ahead of the World Cup. They are vulnerable still at the back, but they are better than we are at the minute. So with that said, I'm going to go for us to score early and get a goal, but to run out 3-1 losers.
3-1 losers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know where I sit with this one, because as you mentioned, Leicester are in a bit of a purple patch at the moment. They're doing really well. And you are not doing so well. You've had 2 wins, a draw, and 3 losses in your last 6 games. Leicester, they are currently looking at 3 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. Where do I sit with this one? Do you know what? I'm going to go for 1-1 on this one.
I'd take a point at this point. We need it.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 1-1.
And that swiftly moves us on to Wolves taking on Arsenal.
Yes, so Wolves versus Arsenal playing away. Obviously, we've only dropped 5 points throughout the course of the Premier League. Currently sitting on 11 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Wolves not doing particularly great either. 2 wins, 4 draws, and 8 losses. Conceding goals, ridiculous amounts, 14 goals, and they have had 1 draw and win and 4 losses in their last 6 games. I don't want to say this is going to be a comfortable win, because you just never know. It's going to be one of these games where you have a team having a bit of a dip in form and the need to kind of kickstart their season, and sure enough, it's probably going to be us. However, it is a different Arsenal that we are seeing at the moment. We are grinding out results. We have been very dominating when it comes to performances. Maybe not as clinical as what we should be, but yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. Again, I'll be happy with an away win. I'll be happy with a win. I don't even care if it's narrow, as long as we get the 3 points on the board going into top before the World Cup. So yeah, I'm going to go for 2-1 to us on that one.
I think you're wrong. I think you're going to blow them away. They've got a new manager, but they've been scoring, but they have been conceding like there's a hole in the net. Gabby Jesus, I'm going to tip for a hat-trick in this game. I think he's going to be fuming that he's been left out of the World Cup squad, and I think he's going to be saying, you should have put me in. So I'm going to go for him to have a hat-trick. You will concede, but I'm going to go for a 5-1. Big result.
Okay. You do know that Gabby Jesus has been called up, right?
I read a thing earlier that said he didn't. He'd been missed out.
I'm pretty sure him and
I thought Martinelli had been called up, but Jesus hadn't.
No, it's Gabriel in our defence that hasn't been
that's
called up.
Might be a misread by myself. Even so, he'll be happy and score a hat trick.
Nice turnaround, yeah. To be honest, I think it's like 9 games without him scoring. But again, you can't criticise his workload or his contributions to goals because he's picked up a couple of assists in recent weeks. So, to be honest, there's part of me that doesn't care if he doesn't score as long as he puts in the work rate and possibly times up with an assist or something.
Yeah.
I would obviously love him to score, but we shall see. But yeah, I'm going to go for a narrow win. Hopefully to leave us at the top of well, if we get the win, it will leave us at the top of the league before the Premier League concludes until after the World Cup.
Oh yeah, he has been called up. That's my misread. I read it as Martinelli had been called up, but he'd been missed out as well as Firmino. But yeah, my mistake. Yeah, I still think he's going to get a few goals in this game. He's going to be on form going into the World Cup, wanting to pip that number 1 spot up top. But for this week, have you got anything else to add to the podcast, Mike?
No, but I want to pose a question to you, possibly to consider for next week. Graham Potter.
Yes.
Has he left Brighton too early?
No. I think to get offered that job on the long term was the right move. I think he's been really unlucky with injuries. You think he put Kepa in goal, he's injured. Reece James injured. Ben Chilwell injured. Jorginho injured. So I think he's been really unlucky with the injuries that have hit. And I think maybe not this season, but certainly next season we'll see a different Chelsea.
Okay, nice and easy. Thanks very much. That's it.
Yeah. Well, until next week, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
Make sure you're subscribed over on the YouTube channel, and we will see you very, very soon.